Thanks for joining us online at St Michael's Chester Square. Whether you're looking for a church or curious about faith, we're a church in the heart of London with a heart for London. We want to encounter God, equip the church, and evangelize London and beyond. We'd love to see you on a Sunday soon. You can find out more at stmichaelschesterSquare.org and follow us on Instagram so you don't miss anything. For now, we pray this message inspires and equips you.
This morning's reading is a selection of verses from Nehemiah, chapter 3, starting at verse 1, which can be found on page 485 of the Church Bibles. Eliashib, the high priest, and his fellow priests went to work and rebuilt the sheep gate. They dedicated it and set its doors in place, building as far as the Tower of the Hundred, which they dedicated, and as far as the Tower of Hananel. The men of Jericho built the adjoining section, and Zakur, son of Imri, built next to them. The next section was repaired by the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisors. The Jeshana gate was repaired by Joiada, son of Paseah, and Meshullam, son of Besodeiah. They laid its beams and put its doors with their bolts and bars in place. Next to them, repairs were made by men from Gibeon and Mizpah, Melatiah son of Gibeon and Jadon of Meronoth, places under the authority of the governor of Trans-Euphrates. Uzziel son of Harhiah, one of the goldsmiths, repaired next to them, and Hananiah, one of the perfume makers, made repairs next to that. They restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. Rephaiah son of Hur, ruler of a half-district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section. Shalom, son of Halohesh, ruler of a half-district of Jerusalem, repaired the next section with the help of his daughters. Next to him, Asa, son of Jeshua, ruler of Mizpah, repaired another section from a point facing the ascent to the armory as far as the angle of the wall. Next to him, Baruch, son of Zabbai, zealously repaired another section from the angle to the entrance of the house of Eliashib, the high priest. And the temple servants living on the hill of Ophel made repairs up to a point opposite the water gate, toward the east and the projecting tower. Next to them, the men of Tekoa repaired another section, from the great projecting tower to the wall of Ophel. Above the horse gate, the priests made repairs, each in front of his own house. Next to them, Zadok, son of Immer, made repairs opposite his house. And between the room above the corner and the sheep gate, the goldsmiths and the merchants made repairs. This is the word of the Lord.
We're talking today about being involved in something bigger than ourselves. You know, early in my career, I was finance controller at the sprawling, massive Ford Dagenham plant in East London. It was both the best job in my life and the worst job in my life. It was one of those jobs where I would arrive at my desk, my office in the morning, sit at my desk quietly, all peace and calm, but knowing that without fail, sometime throughout the day, all hell would break loose. One didn't know why or where or what, but every day, without fail, some drama would ensue. It was chaotic. Back in the 1970s, Ford Dagenham was a byword for worker and management tensions and industrial strife. I don't know, some of you might remember that. By the 90s, when I arrived there, it was much improved, but still, it was them and us, workers and bosses, management and unions, very old school, very hierarchical. But one day in 1996, this amazing place, with all of its rife with tensions, there were gender tensions, there were racial tensions, industrial tensions, interdepartmental tensions. But on one day in 1996, the whole plant came together to celebrate 80 years of production on that site. We might have a slide for that. And we produced that day the 10 millionth vehicle to be produced at Dagenham, which also by some dubious skullduggery by the PR department was also considered to be the 250 millionth Ford to be produced worldwide. A Ford Fiesta driven off the production line by a local hero, retired boxing champion Frank Bruno. What a great day. All rivalries, all tensions, all bickering put aside for one glorious day. We were there to celebrate something bigger than ourselves, something which none of us alone could do. You see, it was a place where coal and steel came in one end, and out of the other end came gleaming new automobiles. You see, we need to know, don't we? We need to know that when we have to deal with the everyday discouragements and disappointments, the annoying things, annoying people, we need to know, don't we, that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And the story of the building of the wall in Nehemiah is one such story, a story that is bigger than any one person, a story that sees the unlikely cooperation of a very diverse group of people. Last week, Simon encouraged us to be waiting well. This week, I want to look at us partnering well. And we're going to look at it in three parts. Part one is everyone has a part. Part two is do your part. Part three is don't be distracted by those who don't take part. That should be easy to remember, part, okay? 3 parts. And finally, we're going to see afterwards the story is a story for us today. If you want your life to count, if you want to partner in a story bigger than yourself that has eternal and cosmic consequences, then listen up. Okay, let's get into it. Everyone has a part. Everyone has a part. Okay, so Nehemiah 3, as you saw, reads like a parade of diversity. There are different professions represented: priests, Levites, goldsmiths, perfume makers. The wall was built because everyone, whatever their profession, not just the priests, everyone picked up a tool. It's so encouraging to see many of you here, lawyers, financiers, nurses, doctors, diplomats, politicians. And here at St. Michael's, you're on the welcome team. You're helping with the children's work. You're making the tea. You know, different classes were represented. There were the high priests, but there were also the regular priests. There were the Levites, there were temple servants. There were the governors, and there were also rulers. Then there were rulers of districts, and there were rulers of half districts. It's often said at St. Michael's that we are a cash-rich and a time-poor church. Some have more time to do the work. Some have more money to pay for the work. We are grateful for all who contribute in any way. You see, writing to the Philippians, Paul writes to thank them for a gift of money. That's what the book of Philippians is for. And he says, I thank my God every time I remember you because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now. Partners in the gospel with the Apostle Paul. Just because they put a check in the post, they are recorded for all eternity as being partners with the Apostle Paul. I'll take that trade any day. So we're grateful. We're grateful for however you contribute. There were different districts represented. The awful city of David. What about Pimlico? What about Chelsea? What about Belgravia? What about Westminster? Different districts represented. Different families and clans were represented. It's so good to see here, isn't it, when a family will welcome us on the door. Mom, dad, teenager, children welcoming us here at St. Michael's. Different families. There were residents and there were commuters. From Mizpah, from Gideon, from Jericho. People came from 8 different districts from a 15 to 20 mile radius around. Yes, even people from south of the river. So this is not a chapter about superheroes. This is about a chapter about the people of God showing up. Paul echoes this in 1 Corinthians, where he says, "For we are co-workers in God's service." We're not spectators. We're not consumers. We're co-workers and we're partners. Second part, do your part. You see, a repeated phrase that happens in this chapter is next to his house, beside his house, in front of their home. In our Frontline series, we talked about the kingdom being built where you are. What's the section in front of your house? Is it your family, your workplace, your school, your friendships, your gym, your street? You know, some of us want God to send revival to the church while we neglect our own living room. And so Jamie reminded us also that this city is broken, and rebuilding London requires kingdom builders in every vocation. God rebuilds London when Christians in finance, law, education, arts, healthcare, business, technology, when they see their daily work as kingdom work. Let's be honest, the church has not always been very good at this. I remember a friend of mine, Bernie Hells, at a church we used to be a part of. It was a church where often they would call people to the front to pray for them, which was a great thing. And one day they called all the children's workers forward to pray for them. Bernie was one of those. He'd volunteered at that church for quite a number of years as a children's worker, once a month, taking his turn. Afterwards, he reflected to me, he said, "You know, it's interesting. Here I've been prayed for turning up once a month to do children's work. But for 20 years now, I've been a teacher in a tough comprehensive school in London. Nobody's ever prayed for me." We haven't always got it right, have we? Your office, your school, your workplace is the mission field. You don't need a pulpit to build God's kingdom. Part 3, don't be distracted by those who don't take part. There's a very sobering sentence in verse 5. I don't know if you saw it. The nobles of Tekoa would not put their shoulders to the work under their supervisors. But by contrast, the attitude of the men of Tekoa is very sharply different to the nobles. Though their nobles don't take part, verse 5 tells us that the men of Tekoa built a section in the Fishgate area. And then verse 27 tells us that the men of Tekoa also repaired another section from the great projecting wall to the wall of Ophel. You see, here's the hard truth. Some people love the idea of revival more than the labor of revival. But don't let their inactivity discourage you. Like the men of Tekoa, we double down. Some others are said to have built more than one section. Barak, son of Zabai, we're told zealously repaired another section. Last week, Simon spoke about William Booth, the founder of the Salvation Army. How in his book, In Darkest England, he lays out a plan for the eradication of poverty in this country, in Victorian England. But what drove that planning? What drove that desire for change? It was his zeal. Let's hear these words from Booth. "While women weep, as they do now, I'll fight. While little children go hungry, as they do now, I'll fight. While men go to prison, in and out, as they do now, I'll fight. While there is a drunkard left, while there is a poor lost girl upon the streets, while there remains one dark soul without the light of God, I'll fight to the very end." We need to double down. We need the zeal, as it were, of William Booth and of Barak. So in summary, everyone has a part. Do your part. Don't be distracted by those who don't take part. Now, in this second section, sorry, that's not the end. In this second section, did I not mention that? 2 sections. In this second section, I want to offer an encouragement, a warning, and a hope. Okay, an encouragement. As we've seen, Nehemiah 3 destroys the idea that the church is being built by a professional class. There were priests, but there were also perfumers. There were rulers, but there were also servants. But note, there were no stonemasons. There were no carpenters. There are no builders mentioned at all. Nobody is qualified for this work. In 2007, archaeologists uncovered a section of Nehemiah's wall. My commentary describes it like this. The structure located near the northern tower shows signs of hasty construction, matching the biblical account of a 2-day rushed building project. I think the commentary is being generous. Here's a picture of that section of the wall. I don't know if you can see it. There's a schematic showing which bit we're looking at, built on top of the original walls. And there, if you can see, the red arrow points to the section that Nehemiah built. It's rubbish, isn't it? It's rubbish. You know, it's a wall built by perfumers, isn't it? I mean, look at it. It could have been built by a bunch of bankers and lawyers and politicians. I'm not very good at evangelism, you say. I'm not very good at praying for people. I'm not very knowledgeable about my Bible, you say. But he says, my power is made perfect in weakness. God chose the weak in the world to shame the strong. Yes, you're probably wobbly on your Bible knowledge, but people don't care what you know. They just want to know that you care. A warning. As I said, verse 5 says, the nobles of Tekoa refused to join the work. But Nehemiah, you notice, doesn't chase after them. He doesn't beg them. He just keeps on building, and they miss out. I once heard a story of a woman in Wales looking back on the Welsh revival that took place there in 1904, 1905. A very godly woman, some years afterwards, reflecting that she'd been in Wales at that time, she'd lived in Wales, and she knew nothing, being completely unaware of the revival. It's estimated that 100 to 150,000 people were converted and added to the church in Wales at this time. But this woman in her Anglican church had neither been involved nor had the church. Wales was broken, but the revival fundamentally transformed Welsh society. Even today, I suspect at the Six Nations, they'll be singing, "Guide me, O thou great Redeemer." And that's as a result of that revival, where they sang these hymns. But you know you can miss it. For this woman, the wall got built without her. She missed out. The Methodists, the Baptists, they all participated. But her church, her Anglican church, missed out. Let that be a warning to us. You know, right now, under our noses, great work is being done. While politicians talk about making Britain a Christian nation again, down in Pimlico, the section of the wall in front of my house, the Pimlico Foundation, a charity begun and supported by this church, is every day reaching children and families, mainly immigrant families, of all sorts of backgrounds and faiths, with the gospel. Their schools work and their youth work are reaching children we could never reach. They're launching 2 new initiatives soon to help children with mental health issues get back into school. A joint praise evening in which we'll take part for churches in the area for young people. Right now, they need help. They need your help Their wall is definitely a bit wobbly, and the work is about to grind to a halt. They need money now, and they need some new trustees. If you can help, see me afterwards. Down in Westminster, the Gate, another charity begun and supported by this church, is every day reaching people of all backgrounds and faiths who have unplanned pregnancies. They're always needing volunteers. They're always needing money to support the work. If you can help, see Claire Leslie. Right here in this nave, in this place, as it were the section in front of our house, little stars every week, reaching people of all backgrounds and faiths, mothers and helpers who just need some respite in their week. The work is growing so fast that we can't count the people anymore. We just count the pushchairs. I don't know what the latest count is. Anybody know how many it was this week? It's just growing like topsy. It's amazing. All of these initiatives and more, these are the things that will begin to turn around our neighborhood, turn our nation around. If you can, get behind them, become a partner in the gospel. Don't let the wall get built without you. Don't miss out. Finally, yes, and this time I do mean finally, I think. I just want to speak to those of you who've not even begun on the journey of building the kingdom, building the city, building the church. Well, maybe you're one of those who started out and somewhere along the line you've stopped. You see, in verse 11 we come across Malchijah of Haram. He was building one of the sections. He's not particularly called out or noted in any way, except that we've come across him before. The book of Ezra mentions him as being one of those who was convicted of wrongdoing for marrying a foreign woman. He'd stepped back from the Israel project, so to speak. He'd brought sin and shame upon himself and upon the city. But Ezra tells us how, along with others, he repented and turned back from his past life. And here in verse 11, we find him forgiven, cleansed, restored, giving himself to the work of the kingdom, building the city. If that's you, if you've never given your life to Jesus, or you've stepped back and you want to turn your life around, we'd love to pray with you afterwards. Do come forward. Just find one of us at the end. And as we've seen also, Nehemiah's wall wasn't the best of walls, possibly content of the worst of walls, actually. But it begun around the same time, was the greatest wall ever built, the Great Wall of China. It's earned the nickname, the longest cemetery in the world. It's estimated that possibly over 1 million people, workers and slaves, perished building that wall. Their names lost to history. But this wall is different. What's striking about Nehemiah's chapter and his workers is that God records all of the names. So many names. On the Great Wall, hundreds of thousands of people died, nameless. But here in this wall, everyone is named. We will all be named, we are told. Isaiah says he has called each of us by name. Our names are written in the book of life. Revelation tells us that in the New Jerusalem, each person will be given a white stone with a new name written on it and built into the wall. You see, we are not just building a wall. We are the wall. But if you're not on the wall, you're not in the wall. You know, when we participate in kingdom work, it's not like building a car. We're not just making something beautiful and useful. We're also working on ourselves. We make ourselves beautiful and useful to the King. We're building ourselves. I mean, why else would you bother with this bunch of people? We're building something bigger than ourselves. The church is living stones, precious to him, built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, says Ephesians, with Jesus Christ himself as the chief cornerstone. Whether you've never known Jesus or whether you've fallen along the wayside or you've held back by some shame or past record, don't. Double down. He's calling you by name. He wants to welcome you back and, like Malchijah, to take away your shame and use you again for his purposes. We're about something bigger than ourselves. We're a church in the heart of London with a heart for London. But London is broken, we're told. Can we fix it? With the help of God, we can.